Well, JellyRoll, it's so great to have you on taking a walk here. You started 2022 playing 800 seats. I believe it was in Buffalo, New York, and you ended up playing 20,000 seat sellout at your hometown in Nashville. What was the first experience like, and what was the Nashville experience like as well?
It was, the first experience. The funny part of that story I don't get to tell nobody is because I haven't got to detail it is I actually missed the Buffalo show. I had a flight get canceled because of a snowstorm in Buffalo. And I ended up having to just skip Buffalo and go to Boston the next day, which was the Palladium in Worcester, Massachusetts. So it was just funny that my first booking of the year was in a club, And then of course, even the second show, you've probably been to the Palladium. I know you came from the Boston market. So, it's what, 2,000 cap club or whatever. And to end it in a completely sold out arena at home was just a testament of the year. I was having to tell John Loba, the president of Broken Bow Records and the label that signed me, the guy that gave me my chance. And of course, there were some mishaps with all of the partners and media, and we're shooting a documentary and filming this big show, and Loba wasn't upset, but he was like, man, it's just really hard to find you that afternoon. I said, you got to remember, this is so new to us. I was like, we had to grow into the arenas in like 10 months flat. It was hard. It was a big, I went into the pandemic in a 2 Sprinter van tour. Right. And that was a luxury by then because I took an extra Sprinter van for me and the family and I sent the band in the other Sprinter. So I come out of the pandemic straight into a 2 bus tour and ended in a 6 bus, 7 truck tour. You know what I'm saying? And all these dudes around you are just trying to tell you what's going on and you're so confused. You're just trying to trust them. You know what I mean? And you're just like, are you sure this is the right decision to make? We have to buy a whole nother bus of people. They was like, somebody's got to run the lights. I was like, God, why are we bringing lights? Because you're playing a 12,000 cap club of an arena in Michigan at night. You got to have real production. I'd never took production out until we were doing it at a small arena level.
How does John Loba make it look so easy is my question.
Oh, listen, Loba acts like nothing. He only seems excited. He never seems stressed. He's always forward thinking. I don't know if he goes home and just melts into a ball of putty or something, but he's just unbelievable, man.
He did this podcast, and I have to tell you, his vision and his leadership come shining through in that episode, Jelly.
No, I got to check it out because he's I see it every time I talk to him, and I'm so blessed to have a label partner that I talk to multiple times a week. I mean, him, Carson, Adrian Michaels, the entire radio team over there. I mean, I talk to these people obsessively. I mean, I probably talk to somebody in that office every day, twice.
You share some similar life paths as the great Johnny Cash. Prison time, drug challenges, personal trials. What does his music mean to you?
Oh, man. Johnny was one of the whole outlaw movement, not limited to Johnny, but that whole era was still probably my favorite era in American music history. And I say American music history, not just country music history, because Nashville was on fire. This Bob Dylan came down here and wrote, what was the Nashville Skyline record? Came down here and did the Johnny Cash show. I mean, Johnny Cash had transcended country music at a time into a whole different culture and put a whole different look, and he taught me a lot, no pun intended, about how to walk the line because Johnny knew how to walk that line. And I don't even mean just in his relationship. I meant in the business, right? He stood by his outlawedness. He stood a man of character, a man of integrity, morals, what he believed. He wasn't afraid to tell you to fuck off. Right. But equally did 52 shows of the Johnny Cash show, almost a syndicated television show, big hit. The infamous documentary you probably seen about him and Richard Nixon, Tricky Dick and the Man in Black. I mean, he had some wild political shit happening in the background too, just quiet as kept, and Johnny Cash was the ultimate to me of that era. The guy that I aspired to be. Me and my buddy Ryan Upchurch, Struggle Jennings, and Adam Calhoun were talking recently. And Ryan Upchurch is a multi-genre artist as well, but does it independently and has no aspiration to partner with a label. I am anti the system, right? As far as like the establishment, meaning I think artists should own art. And I'm pressing that big in these rooms is that artists should own art. There's no reason these artists shouldn't own a piece of their masters. Ryan's just like, I'm never playing ball with those guys. And I said, well, that's what makes this so cool about all four of us is because that was Johnny, Waylon, Willie, Chris, Jesse, right? If you think about it, Johnny played the game. Johnny Cash show, big late night TV appearances, stood next to presidents, you know. Man, Waylon Jennings didn't give a shit about none of that, dude. He showed up every now and then to a late night TV show, and that's about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, so it's really cool to see that even in this generation, that outlaw blossoms different ways, just like it did back then, you know?
I love your appreciation for the historical figures and the music that's been around you.
Yeah, well, it's bound to repeat itself. So I just wanted to check and see where I might fit into the future landscape. And I started getting obsessed with these eras. And I mimicked my entire songwriting style from that 1967 to 76 era. Everything from Seeger to Dylan to Cash to Willie to Waylon, right? That whole James Taylor, Jim Croce. These are the guys that made me want to write songs.
John Prine, I would imagine, is in
Oh,
there.
absolutely. Mm.
Do you remember the first time that you rapped something?
Oh, absolutely. Dude, I went downstairs. So, um, my mother struggled with like mental health and addiction stuff, right? And she'd come to the kitchen and the whole house would come and we'd listen to music. And when I realized that music was affecting her addiction, I was like, oh, this makes mom happy. I should go write music. Right. So I went upstairs and I wrote a rap because hip hop was super influential in our culture. And I went downstairs with my little sheet of paper and she had all of her friends at the kitchen table. I called them the Golden Girls, like 6 or 7 of them. They'd all come to the kitchen table together. And they just chain smoked cigarettes. And I came down and she turned the record off and said, what you got? I said, listen to this. And I held my little sheet of paper up and I was shaking the whole time. And I rapped her a little rap. And I was probably 12 years old, 11 years old.
Do you remember what you rapped to
I
this
don't
day?
remember anything. It was just like, I just remember that feeling of everybody cheering me on and telling me to go write another one. And in hindsight, they were just trying to get rid of me. That's how we do kids. Yeah, great. Go write another one of those. You know what I'm saying? You know? I walked into middle school. I went to this school called Cameron Middle School on Murfreesboro Road. It was across the street from the J.C. Napier Project homes. And so needless to say, I was one of 7 white kids at the whole school, right? And I would walk every day by the breakfast because, you know, that you get free breakfast at school. And they would always be sitting outside of the lunchroom, pounding on the table and rapping. So I'd say maybe my 7th grade year, 6th grade year, I finally got the courage to go over and see if I could fit in the mix, you know? And I walked in and they would freestyle, you know, about teachers and like stuff that was happening in middle school, you know? And I came in and I think I made a joke about running from a principal and him catching me because I was fat, because I was a big kid too. And whatever the line was, I just remember watching 100 black kids in the hallway lose their shit. Just like, because this is like, you got Eminem wasn't out yet, right? Nobody really connected with the Beastie Boys. They had been out, but it wasn't in a culture that I knew who the Beastie Boys were, but these kids didn't. Like Vanilla Ice was, you know what I mean? This wasn't even really a thing yet. So it's like, this was an unheard thing. Like, why is there a white kid in here rapping and he's good at it? So it was really, really, I remember that being the 2 times I caught the bug.
What was it like working with Eminem?
Nothing short of unreal. I mean, he's the GOAT. Anything connected with him is just, I think he's the greatest rapper ever. I think he will go down as the greatest rapper ever.
You have this unbelievable lack of being categorized in one genre. You've got rap, you've got rock, you've got country, you've got spiritual. Damn, you're even like a motivational speaker in your own way. How does that make you feel that you defy categorization?
Lifelong dream. I feel like my whole life I just wanted to defy categories. You know, I just wanted to I feel like a lot of us live in that space. We were just so taught that we have to fit into a certain box for identity purposes, you know? Because when I was a kid, you couldn't come to school on Monday with a Shania Twain shirt and come back to school Friday with a Snoop Dogg shirt, right? You were either a country person, you were a rock person, you were a rap person, you were identified in these little boxes. And I just remember thinking then, well, man, that's not right. Because I like Offspring and Snoop Dogg, you know? I like Johnny Cash and I like Jim Croce. Why can't I? And what has happened through the era of streaming is now we see that more than ever, right? And so me blending the genres is just me kind of doing what I feel passionate about. But my daughter's an example of, I listened to her cleaning her room yesterday. Every time she cleans her room, she turns on the music to make sure the whole house can hear it. And that's maybe our punishment for punishing her to make her clean her room. And she blares everything from Ariana Grande to Cardi B. You know what I mean? It's like the fact that my kid knows the new Chris Young song and she also knows the new NBA Youngboy song. That's not weird to anybody in her school, And in my generation, that would have been fucking weird. You know what I mean?
Jelly, if you ran the prison system, what would you do?
If I ran the prison system, I would attempt to bring more programming, rehabilitation, and trade work skills there. And I would try to create systems to offer housings in different areas, right? Because a lot of the problem that happens, especially in the juvenile cases, because I'm super passionate about the juveniles, because I was a juvenile offender that got charged as an adult. Um, you take a 15-year-old kid that's in a broken home with a family that does drugs and a cousin that lives there that sells drugs, and you put them in juvenile, and then you send them right back to that house and wonder how that kid triggered back into trouble. You know, I think that I would focus on offering opportunities for inmates to get out of prison and move to halfway houses in different states with trade work available there, or different cities, take the Chattanooga guys and move them to, you know, uh, Humboldt, Tennessee, and take the Memphis guys and move them to Chattanooga, and just try to create culture and structure because you can't continue. I know trouble's everywhere, but sometimes new playgrounds, new playmates, and I think that I would just focus on that, focus on the rehabilitation of it. I look back at my time in jail and all the time I did, and I didn't learn a single skill in there, right? Like I didn't learn a single skill. Like they just make smarter criminals. You put 200 criminals in a room together and don't give them anything to go look forward to. They're not going to do nothing but gamble, fight, and teach each other criminal ways. That's it. That's all that happens in jail. They gamble, they fight, and they teach each other better ways to be criminals. My favorite thing about the George Young story, I'm sure you've seen the movie Blow, is when he says, "I went in with a bachelor's degree in weed and came out with a PhD in cocaine." And that is so true. You know how many guys I've seen go to jail, small drug dealers, and meet a big drug dealer in jail, and they're not focused on rehab. Now, luckily, here in Nashville, Sheriff Hall is really open to the idea of programming. So I've been talking to him a lot. So we're going to start making changes on that, hopefully on a national level, but we're going to start where it matters most, right here at home.
And when you did the sellout at the arena, you put your money where your mouth is to begin a project there. Can you talk about that?
Yes, sir. No, we started putting together studios inside of the juvenile downtown. The Impact Youth Outreach that we partner with, we hired more staff for for full time care for people that come out of juvenile. So they'll go straight to this program. We're getting it court ordered by the judges. Let me tell you the most beautiful thing about this. And we're building studios outside for kids when they come home, music programs inside. The next thing we're going to try to bring in there is another trade work. Whether we partner with Lee's Heating and Air and try to bring HVAC in or something just to teach kids, more trade work. But this is just scratching the surface. I have big dreams. I want to open halfway houses around town, and I want to really make a difference when it comes down to this city. That's one of the things I want to be remembered for is, I want to be remembered for feeding the homeless and visiting the jails.
Do you have a documentary in the works?
We do. We do have a documentary to work. I don't know how much I'm allowed to talk about it, but we do. Hulu filmed me, ABC News filmed me for I'd say 60% of 2022. I mean, they spent a lot of time with me, and it should be coming out sometime right here before the midsummer. I'm really excited and nervous because you let a camera crew into your personal life for like 400 or 500 hours. You know, they probably caught some wild shit.
Do you still get performance nerves?
Every time. Oh, unbelievably. I played the Leslie Jordan tribute at the Grand Ole Opry recently, and I was shaking on stage. You know, you could just see my hand shaking. The microphone you could see shaking a little bit. Yeah, and the day I quit getting those nerves, I'll quit touring.
I have to tell you, as we close, as somebody who has felt the deep connection with you and like others felt that connection, I have to ask you, how do you balance work and life to the betterment of your health and well-being?
I am learning that now because I have spent so much time focused on building the music side of the career that at times I do get lost on the family side, which is always the most important side. So going into this year specifically, I found a better balance. You know what I've gotten finally bold enough to say to help with that, Buzz? No. No. It's a crazy word. And it's hard to say. When you're a kid from Antioch that never had anything, you just say yes. Because you know what I'm saying? Because you've never had anything. And then you say yes to so much you find out that I haven't been home for a daughter's birthday in 6-7 years, and it just breaks my heart, So it's things that I'm going to try to do better moving forward.
Thank you for saying yes to being on Taking a Walk. I'm so grateful.
No, these are the easy ones. The no's are whenever they get you to do a one-off in Seattle and it takes 3 days of your life and you still say yes.